Hi there, gorgeous. Hope you're having a fabulous Monday. In today's video, I am trying another YouTuber makeup tutorial. The one I'm showing you today comes from Angela Bright, and this is a tutorial for a half-cut crease look, specifically for those with hooded eyes. I mean, any eye shape can do this, but if you have hooded eyes, this is a really great technique to try. This video has well over 1 million views on YouTube. I want to say it may be closer to 2 million at this point. So you can already tell that it's been very helpful to many people, and I love the way that Angela presents the information. Her skill set is amazing, so I thought it would be a great one to follow today. Plus the fact that I've never tried anything like this before, I thought it would be really interesting to see what it would do to my own eye shape. And if you want to follow along with me, feel free. Let's have some fun. So I already have my eyeshadow primer applied. I used the one from Milani today. And in the video, Angela uses the, what's it called? Anastasia Soft Glam palette. Took me a minute to remember. So I'm going to use its dupe counterpart if you're looking for a more inexpensive option. This one is from Wet n Wild. It's the one called My Glamour Squad. So the first shade that she takes from the Anastasia palette is the one called Orange Soda, which is not really duped in the Wet n Wild palette. So I'm going to use this shade in place of it.
And I'm just gonna blend this back and forth in my crease. This is just gonna give you a nice little wash of color, and we're gonna build this up. So with these shades that I'm placing in my crease, I'm making sure to bring it all the way into my inner crease right here.
Okay.
And all the way out here. You don't want to bring this shade right underneath your brow, but you can see I'm pretty close to my brow, but I'm not touching it.
She's doing something a little bit differently than what I traditionally do, which is why I enjoy learning from other YouTubers. She's bringing it to the inner corner a little bit more, and it'll be interesting to see on my eye shape what that will do, because her and I have a very similar eye shape.
Now I'm going to switch to a deeper shade and a more tapered brush. So this is a Sigma E25. It has a little bit of a taper point.
I have that brush.
So I'm going to pick up the shade Rustic on my E25. So I swirled the tip of my brush in the shadow, then I'm going to tap off the excess.
Okay, so she's taking what appears to be a darker brown. So from the Wet n Wild palette, I'm taking this dark brown from the end.
So you can see the shadow is on the tip of my brush, and we're going to start to deepen up the crease.
Okay, so she's just basically going over the same area she did before. And she is going all the way into the inner corner there.
So this brush is a little more precise than the first one I used, so it lets me place this shade more directly in my crease. And again, you want to make sure you get the shade all the way into your inner crease, especially right here, because you want that to peek through when we do the actual cut crease.
Okay, so I need a little bit more.
And just to show you, here is what my eye looks like relaxed as I'm blending.
So this is definitely different for me, because normally I focus more dark shadows on the outer corner as opposed to the inner corner. Now, I am much more heavy-handed than Angela is. I mean, I see these YouTubers that are so light-handed when it comes to their eyeshadow, and they just barely apply it, and here I am just like, I can't do it. I don't, I've gotten better over the years at being a little lighter-handed, but I don't know, I like the pigment. I want to see my eyeshadow.
Now I'm going to take a little bit more of that first Orange Soda shade, and I'm going to blend right on top of that Rustic shade to help soften any edges.
Okay, that's exactly what I would have done too. Just because I see the edges getting a little too sharp from that last eyeshadow. And then an added step that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back with a simple fluffy brush here and blend over the edges of the top transition shade to soften it. And everyone's technique is going to be different. I mean, my final eye look more than likely will not look exactly like Angela's, and your final eye look may not look exactly like mine. It may look better than mine. So just be aware that everyone's skill set is different. It's going to be up to you, and your own unique eye shape too. That plays a role in it too. So don't beat yourself up if you feel like, oh, my eye doesn't look exactly like that. Mine's not gonna look exactly like Angela's. So just, I wanted to put it out there that sometimes I feel like we're too hard on ourselves and we're not accepting of our own unique eye shapes or skill sets and the growth process, because who I am now with eyeshadow application compared to 7 years ago are like two completely different people. So you learn, you evolve, you grow.
What I'm gonna do now is work on the outer corner of my eye, and then we'll do the cut crease. So I picked up more of that rustic shade, and I'm using the side of my E25 now. You can see it's not just the tip, it's
okay.
the side. And I'm gonna stamp that on the outer corner of my eye and connect it into my outer crease.
Okay, so it looks like she's going like that, and then blending it up.
I'm doing about 2 to 3 layers of this shadow out here to get it as dark as I want.
Yeah, that's another important step that I had to learn the hard way, is that layering. Layer your eyeshadow. Sorry, I just got an email on my phone. Yes, layers, layers, layers. That's the best way to build up your eyeshadow, is add a little bit at a time and keep going. And then add a little bit more and keep going, and add a little bit more and keep going. Instead of just packing it on and then trying to fix it or blend it out from there. It really just, it makes such a difference.
Now I'm going to take a little bit more of that orange soda shade, and I'm going to use that to lightly blend right here in the center of my lid, where that dark brown is meeting my blank lid.
Okay.
Just right here. Just because I want this to be a little bit softer.
Makes sense. So I'm going back and I'm using a little bit more of the first shade I used in this look, and I'm using that to blend the edges towards the brow bone. But if you notice too, she's using a lot of fluffy brushes for the application method, and when you use fluffier brushes in your application, it makes your eye look softer as opposed to using more densely packed brushes designed to pack eyeshadow on, like for instance this one from Crown, the C150. This would be a great one for packing eyeshadow onto the lid, but it can also make the look a little less blended. You'd have to work a little harder to blend it, as opposed to using a brush like this one from Sigma. So just tip I wanted to share, if you've struggled with your eyeshadow feeling like it's not as blended or it's not as soft looking as you might like for it to, try changing the method of brush that you're using.
Okay, now it's time for the part you've all been waiting for, the actual cut crease. I'm sure you've seen this technique before. It's nothing new. I've been doing it on myself for years, but I'm just showing you guys more in depth on what I'm doing. So I'm gonna use my Tarte Shape Tape Concealer again. You just wanna use any kind of liquid concealer that's a little bit thick.
Okay, liquid concealer that's a little bit thick. Oh, what do I have? I am going to go with the e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer because I feel like that's a little bit thick. Actually, yeah, it's definitely thick. Okay, so she's using a very, very, very small brush, which I think I had. This is a good one. This is from Alter Ego. It's their number 8 brush, and you can see how tiny that one is, which is going to be great for what I feel like she is going to be doing in this next step.
So for this technique, I think the smaller the brush, the better. So I just placed a little bit of concealer on the back of my hand, and I'm going to dip one side of my brush into that concealer. And what you want to do is kind of look down and place some concealer on the bottom part of your lid. But you do not want to get it on your eyelashes, okay? So I have a good amount of concealer on my lid, and then I like to look up and around, and there we go. So where that concealer transferred to is exactly where I want my cut crease.
Oh wow, mine's really high. Oh, there's an ad. Lovely.
I'm just taking whatever's left on my brush, and I'm gonna start to kind of connect the dots here. And I like to do pretty small motions for this. Again, the smaller the brush, the better.
Okay. This is interesting.
I recommend getting really, really close to a mirror for this step, but I obviously can't because I'm filming this.
Yeah, that's
and
gonna be...
you just want to create a half moon shape.
Okay. I can't get too close to the mirror either, so it's gonna be interesting.
And I just like to move the concealer around to get it exactly where I want it.
Okay, so hers is a little bit of a heavier application, so I'm going to add a little bit more. It could be just the difference in concealer consistencies too. Half moon shape. Okay, I'm gonna look down too because I have a fold in my crease, not in my crease, but in my eyelid that tends to occur when I'm applying my eyeshadow, and I sometimes find that I have to almost either lift my eyebrow or tilt my head back to fill it in. So if that describes you and you struggle with that, try this. It works.
I still didn't pick up any more concealer. I'm just using what was on my brush. And I like to go a little bit more than halfway.
Okay.
Because like right here would be halfway, but I just go a little bit farther. And then I'm gonna wipe off that brush on a little towel, and I'm gonna pat along this line right here. You can also use your finger for this step, but again, I like small brushes so I can be more precise. So you can see now I have this nice cut crease line right there. So now you can pretty much apply any shade you want on top of that concealer.
Okay, so with this stuff, you have to work really fast because it does dry, and I kind of forgot about that, so oops. It's okay, we'll fix it though. I'm gonna keep blending it and get what I can blend out as much as I can.
My same brush that I was using in the shade Glistening, and I'm just gonna apply that on top of the concealer.
So she's taken that really light gold from the palette, which is this dupe in the Wet n Wild version. I am gonna use that same small brush I was using before. Take some of that eyeshadow on that brush, and then she just applies it over the top.
At this point, you could switch to a larger lid brush since like the hard work is done, but I already have this brush out, so I'm just gonna keep using it.
That's how I feel. Why waste another brush? It's another one I have to clean.
But see how I just used the edge of this brush just to nicely go on top of that concealer?
Yes.
Now I'm gonna go back to my E25 with no additional product on it, and I'm gonna blend right where that matte brown meets the shimmer, just to soften this a little bit.
Okay.
And now I'm gonna switch to a Sigma E30 pencil brush, and I'm gonna take a darker shade, so I'm gonna take Cypress Umber, right? So I have that shade on my brush like that.
All right, let me find my Sigma E30, because I know I have one. Aha, okay. All right, she's taking a really dark shade from the palette, and I think we could get away with using that same dark brown again. Let me see.
I'm gonna pat this on my very outer corner to deepen it up even more, and it gives the eye more depth and dimension.
Okay, so I am going to attempt to use that darker brown there. And she was applying it to the outer corner. I used to do this with this same brush actually when I was learning how to do the outer V. It's been so long since I've done this kind of technique.
Now this next step is optional, but I think it makes the cut crease pop even more. But this step can be a little bit tricky, and it takes some time getting used to and getting it like perfect. So I'm gonna take the little cut crease brush I used and just wiping it off again, making sure there's no shadow on it right now. And I'm gonna take more of that rustic shade right on the tip of my brush.
So I am going to use this brown right underneath that dark brown.
And you don't want too much product, just a little bit. And I'm going to very carefully outline the cut crease.
Okay, so staying above it.
See how that just makes like the slightest difference and just makes it pop even more? Like
really
I said, it's optional.
It's not as sharp as hers is, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And I'm gonna take some of that dark brown too to deepen it up and attempt to go over and then I'll take some more of that top transition shade and blend. So she goes on to add more onto the lower lash line, which I will do, but I haven't applied anything to my face yet. So I kind of want to wait until my face makeup is done before applying anything on the lower lash line, because I have found if I apply anything on the lower lash line and then I do my face, I end up having to reapply it on there anyway. So I'm gonna hold off on that. But just looking at my eyes now and having done that cut crease technique, it is quite different. It really does help to open up the eyes more. And I'm hoping that by not having done this eye yet, you can see the difference from this eye to this eye. It's such a very subtle difference, but it looks like I have more lid space over here. It's like, wow, who knew that such a simple little thing like adding concealer and creating an illusion would do such amazing things. It's crazy looking. Now that we have the rest of the face completed, by the way, if you're interested in my lashes, I'll have them linked for you below. They are from my lash line. We'll go ahead and continue with what she is doing on the lower lash line and make that area pop a bit more.
So I'm gonna take more of that rustic shade and I'm gonna blend that on my entire lower lash line. And I'm using...
Okay, so she's taking the rustic shade, which was the medium brown that I was using earlier. So I'm going to take that shade right there from the Wet n Wild palette. Okay, and she is running it on the lower lash line.
Then I'm going to take a little bit of orange soda again and just use that to lightly blend right underneath that dark brown.
So we're taking the lighter tan and blending underneath.
And then I'm going to take the darkest brown that I use, Cypress Umber, and I have this on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to focus this on the outer part of my lower lash line.
Okay, outer part only. So we'll go here. Okay, and she's basically connecting this lower lash line back up into what was created in the outer V there. So I'm going to fan it up to connect it back to that outer V a bit more. And if you feel like you over exaggerate it too much, you can also go back with a blending brush and go underneath and blend out a bit of the eyeshadow. And that is the final look. It is amazing to me how that small amount of concealer and a little trickery used to create that optical illusion on the lid can make such a difference to the eyes. I'm just blown away by this technique. I have to tell you, I am just blown away by this technique. I really didn't know what to expect with it. I always thought that it was just an overdone technique, something that was more for stage, theater, that type of thing. But no, no, no. It really opens up the eyes and it gives you more lid space. It's such a beautiful optical illusion. It's utterly fascinating to me. So I really, really, really love this. Is it something that I would do every day? Possibly if I had the time. It's just changed, I feel like, my entire eye shape. I would more than likely save it for special occasions though, because I am the type lately that just wants to get it on, get it done, get it out the door. But it's absolutely something I am going to remember for the future. And if you followed along with me, or if you want to try something new, I hope that you found this helpful today. Check out Angela's channel. I guarantee that you will love her. I'll have it linked for you below. Once again, thank you, Angela, for such a wonderfully informative, thoughtful, such an excellent video that you put together. Thank you for being here, for taking the time to watch, and look forward to seeing you again next time.